The walls shook as the world above crumbled, yet down here, in the Führerbunker, time stood still. I'm your guide on forgotten history tales, and tonight I take you into the final days, where whispers and gunfire sealed destiny. I take you beneath Berlin, down narrow concrete steps that reek of damp stone and stale air, into a tomb carved for the living. The city above burns. Each distant thunderclap of Soviet artillery shakes dust from the bunker's ceiling, like the ceiling itself might collapse at any moment. Down here, in this buried labyrinth, the final act of the Third Reich is playing out, and I can almost hear the walls themselves groaning under the weight of history. The corridors are narrow, painted in dull green-gray, lit by flickering bulbs that hum like nervous insects. The smell hits me first, cigarette smoke layered with sweat, unwashed uniforms, and the metallic tang of gun oil. Somewhere in the distance, a generator rattles. The air is thick and suffocating, heavy with the sense that every man and woman inside knows the truth, that the empire above is finished, and yet no one dares say it aloud. As I walk deeper, the sounds of typewriters echo from a side room, clacking keys recording feudal orders. Maps are pinned on walls, their neat lines slashed with red markers showing Soviet pincers closing around the city. The staff officers stare at them with hollow eyes. Outside, Berlin is dying. Inside, the bunker is already dead, only it has not realized it yet. The man at the center of it all lies behind a heavy door, guarded by SS sentries who stand stiff but pale, their boots caked with mud dragged from the ruined streets. Adolf Hitler himself, once the master of Europe, now reduced to a trembling shadow, sits inside. When I enter the Führer's study, I feel the change instantly. The room is small, its concrete walls sweating with moisture, but his presence warps the space like a black hole. He looks shrunken, aged beyond his 56 years. His shoulders stoop, his left hand trembles uncontrollably, and his gaze, once the blazing fire that had entranced millions, now flickers with exhaustion and paranoia. He clings to the edge of a heavy oak table covered in maps, his finger tracing phantom armies that no longer exist. Entire divisions are marked in blue pencil, yet on the ground they are little more than ghosts. I hear his voice, sharp, brittle, commanding yet broken. He insists Steiner's counterattack will save Berlin. He talks of phantom relief from Wenck's 12th Army. His staff nod mechanically, but I can see it in their faces, Goebbels' forced conviction, Bormann's clenched jaw, Keitel's despair. They all know the armies Hitler commands exist only in his imagination, and yet no one dares pierce the illusion. To do so would be treason in this concrete tomb. In one corner, Eva Braun sits quietly, elegant despite the suffocating air. She has brought her dog, a small bubble of normality in the madness. She laughs lightly at some triviality, pretending the world is not collapsing above her head. I watch her sip champagne by candlelight, like a woman at the end of a doomed romance, choosing to dance with death rather than flee from it. Time seems warped here. Hours bleed into one another. The outside world is reduced to distant tremors, each one a reminder that the Red Army is clawing its way closer, block by block, house by house. Reports arrive constantly. The Soviets are in Alexanderplatz, then the Reichstag, then nearly at the Tiergarten. The bunker walls shake more violently now, the muffled roar of Katyusha rockets rolling overhead like an angry storm. But Hitler's world remains fixed in unreality. He rants about betrayal, the generals who failed him, the people who proved weak, even the German nation itself. His words rise and fall like a fever, spittle catching on his cracked lips. In these tirades, I hear the last gasps of a man who once bent nations to his will, now reduced to blaming shadows. And as I stand in that room, I realize something chilling. He does not fear death. What he fears is irrelevance. Everywhere I look, I sense the psychological collapse. Officers whisper in corridors, their uniforms disheveled, their decorations hanging like relics of a lost world. Secretaries scribble furiously, recording orders they know will never be carried out. Some have smuggled cyanide capsules, hidden deep in their pockets. Death has become casual here, spoken of as one might speak of an evening train schedule. If it comes to that, they say, almost with relief. I notice the claustrophobia gnawing at everyone. The air grows hotter, thicker. Sleep is impossible, broken by bombardments and the never-ending hum of ventilation fans. Men pace the corridors, muttering to themselves. Women paint on lipstick in dim mirrors, their smiles trembling. Even the dogs bark nervously, sensing the tension. It is as though we are all trapped in a coffin, waiting for the lid to be sealed. And yet, amidst the despair, there is ritual. Hitler still holds his military conferences, still dictates proclamations as though the Reich stretches from the Atlantic to the Urals. He clings to routine like a drowning man clutching driftwood. When he enters a room, people still rise. Out of habit, out of fear, out of a memory of what he once was. But each time, it feels less convincing. Authority itself is decaying, crumbling like the walls above us. I feel the contradictions pressing down. Outside, the Reich is being devoured by flames. Inside, this bunker becomes both sanctuary and prison. It is safe from the shells above, yet it traps everyone in inevitability. Some still believe in miracles. Others wait for the end. And Hitler himself sits at the center, weaving fantasy upon fantasy, refusing to step out into the ruins of his empire. In those dim chambers, I begin to understand. This is not just a bunker. It is the stage of a death ritual. The Reich was born in fire and myth, and it will end in darkness and delusion. Each whispered order, each frantic glance at a collapsing map, each tremor of his failing hand adds to the sense that history is about to close in, merciless and unstoppable. The walls shake again, harder this time. Dust falls from the ceiling, sprinkling across the maps like ashes. Hitler barely flinches. He simply leans over the table, eyes locked on phantom armies, his finger dragging across Europe as if reality itself will obey. But reality is no longer his to command. And so, in the choking air of the Führerbunker, I realize the final act is approaching. The curtain has not yet fallen, but the stage is cracking beneath our feet. Soon, the walls will echo with decisions no one can escape. And when they come, they will be final. I pause in that narrow corridor, feeling the weight of silence press in. Then I hear it. A muffled voice calling from the communications room, urgent, trembling. Mein Führer. The Soviets have reached the Reichstag. The end is no longer outside. The end is here. The voice from the communications room lingers in my ears like a death knell. The Soviets have reached the Reichstag. The words ripple through the bunker like an electric current, igniting whispers, then silence. Even those who pretend to believe in Hitler's phantom counterattacks cannot ignore the reality now. The Reichstag, the sacred symbol of German power, has fallen into the enemy's grasp. If that is gone, what remains? I walk the corridor slowly, the walls trembling with each Russian barrage. The atmosphere has thickened, almost solid, like walking through smoke you cannot see. Doors slam, boots echo on concrete, and fragments of conversations float in the air. No more fuel, street fighting only, They're only a few 100 meters away. How long can we hold? Inside the main conference room, the mood is shifting. Faces are drawn, uniforms disheveled, and eyes hollowed by fatigue. Joseph Goebbels sits hunched, his gaunt figure radiating both fervor and madness. He still whispers of total war and sacrifice, his rhetoric smoldering even here, but his wife Magda's silence beside him tells another story. I catch her eyes briefly, and I see resignation, the kind a mother wears when she knows she cannot save her children. Martin Bormann, Hitler's loyal shadow, scribbles notes, still clinging to bureaucracy, as though paperwork might keep the walls from caving in. Wilhelm Keitel and Alfred Jodl shuffle maps with trembling fingers, their gestures more ritual than strategy. And always, the center of gravity, Hitler himself, slumped in his chair, a shell of the man who once captivated crowds of thousands. His voice is quieter now, rasping, though his anger still flares when challenged. I stand close enough to see his hands tremble violently as he points to the map. He mutters about armies that will never come. He imagines divisions under Steiner or Wenck charging through Soviet lines, even as reports confirm those formations are shattered or pinned down miles away. It is like watching a drowning man hallucinate an island that does not exist. Around him, his circle nods, some out of loyalty, most out of fear. But cracks are spreading. Albert Speer arrives, his face pale, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. He brings truths no one dares to voice. Fuel reserves are gone, factories are rubble. The Luftwaffe has ceased to exist in any meaningful way. Hitler listens, eyes narrowing, then unleashes fury, accusing Speer of defeatism, betrayal, even treachery. Yet as the tirade echoes off the walls, I notice something chilling in Speer's expression. Not defiance, not fear, but pity. Pity for a man who once commanded empires, now raging at shadows. In the corners of the bunker, whispers take on a different tone. Officers murmur about escape routes, about slipping through Soviet lines, about disguises and false papers. Yet each plan dies in the telling. The Red Army has ringed Berlin like a steel noose. Escape is fantasy. Still, fantasy is the only currency left here, and everyone spends it desperately. Eva Braun remains an eerie contrast. She moves through the bunker in elegant dresses, her hair carefully styled, a splash of color in the gray monotony. She hosts small gatherings, pouring champagne, laughing lightly, coaxing music from a gramophone. It is a grotesque parody of normality, like dancing in a ballroom while the building burns. She whispers to friends that she will not leave Adolf, not now, not ever. She has chosen to share his fate, whatever form it takes. Her loyalty is terrifying in its serenity. The bombardments intensify. The walls groan under the weight of Soviet fire. At night, when the lights dim, I hear muffled sobs in the corridors, quick prayers whispered in the dark. Even the SS guards, those once unshakable fanatics, pace nervously, their eyes darting toward the ceiling as if expecting it to cave in at any moment. The myth of invincibility has collapsed, and what remains is only fear, naked and suffocating. Food grows scarce. Meals are a pitiful sight. Canned goods, stale bread, sometimes horse meat boiled into a thin stew. The champagne Eva serves tastes like mockery beside it. Cigarette smoke fills every room, choking the air, clinging to clothes and hair. The smell of humanity, sweat, fear, decay, permeates everything. I can taste it on my tongue. Amid this claustrophobia, Hitler withdraws further into himself. He dictates his political testament, raging against Jews, against traitors, against the world that conspired against him. His words are venom, yet hollow, echoes of the speeches that once ignited nations. As his secretary types furiously, I feel the finality of it, the tone of a man writing not for the future, but for the grave. And still, no one dares to contradict him. To admit the war is lost is to sign one's death warrant, or at least one's expulsion from his crumbling inner circle. So the theater continues, each man playing his part, each woman hiding fear behind brittle smiles. The bunker has become a stage where reality is denied, and death is rehearsed. But there are moments, fleeting, when the mask slips. I catch Bormann staring at a wall, eyes unfocused, as if already imagining the end. I hear Goebbels mutter to Magda that they will not live in a world without National Socialism. And in the silence after Hitler's rants, I hear the unspoken truth pressing in. They are waiting for the inevitable, each in their own way, each clinging to illusions because illusions are all that remain. Then, one evening, as shells crash closer than ever, the sound reverberating through the concrete like the hammering of a colossal heart, Hitler slumps back in his chair, his eyes sunken, his lips pale. He whispers, almost to himself, "The war is lost." The words hang in the stale air, unacknowledged, as though speaking them aloud risks tearing the bunker itself apart. But I hear them. I feel the weight of them. And I know that with those words, spoken in weakness rather than command, something inside the man has finally broken. The bunker falls into silence. No one breathes. No one moves. Then, slowly, Hitler rises, his figure trembling, his eyes blazing with a strange, fevered clarity. He announces he will not flee, he will not surrender, he will remain here, in Berlin, until the end. And as his circle bows their heads, some in devotion, others in despair, I realize the stage has been set. The dictator has chosen his tomb. The only question now is how the others will follow him into it. Some will resist, some will run, and some will drink death as though it were wine. But the decision has been made. The bunker is no longer just a shelter, it is a mausoleum. Above us, the earth shakes again. The Soviets are digging into the heart of Berlin, closer with every hour. And in this suffocating darkness, I feel the inevitable rushing toward us like a tide. Soon, the silence will be shattered by the final choices of those trapped here. Choices that will stain history forever. And I know, the next scream, the next gunshot, the next whispered goodbye is only moments away. The walls quake with each new barrage. Dust rains from the ceiling, coating maps, shoulders, and the half-empty plates left on tables. It feels as though the Soviets are no longer above us, but clawing through the very earth to drag us out. The air is so thick now, smoke, sweat, and despair mingling into something almost tangible, that breathing itself feels like swallowing the end of the world. In the bunker corridors, I see the unraveling, not in explosions, but in faces. Gone are the stiff expressions of officers clinging to discipline. Now there is twitching, whispering, pacing. Conversations are fragments. Escape, surrender, poison, suicide. Fear seeps through the walls like water. Everyone knows the Red Army is closing in. The question is no longer whether Berlin will fall, but who here will live to see it burn. In Hitler's private rooms, the atmosphere is even stranger. The dictator shuffles with his uneven gait, his body betraying him in ways his mind refuses to accept. His hands tremble constantly, his speech slurs, yet his eyes burn with bursts of feverish conviction. He dictates new commands to armies that no longer exist, shouting at phantom generals, blaming traitors for defeats that are, in truth, nothing more than the natural consequence of his own war. But I notice something else. His circle is splintering. Goebbels, once the iron-tongued prophet, is quieter now, his words clipped, his gaze heavy with exhaustion. His wife Magda sits often with the secretaries, her children occasionally brought down into the dim light of the bunker. The sight of them, innocent faces in a place filled with ghosts, haunts me. The children play silently, unaware of the decisions their parents have already made for them. Bormann remains a shadow, scribbling notes, shuffling messages, keeping the machinery of bureaucracy alive even as the empire dissolves into rubble. His devotion feels less like loyalty now and more like obsession, clutching to routine as the tide rises over his head. And then there is Himmler, absent but whispered about. Rumors swirl that he is negotiating with the Allies behind Hitler's back. That betrayal has already rotted its way into the very core of the Reich. Hitler hears these whispers, and paranoia twists him further. He lashes out at his closest men, accusing them of cowardice, betrayal, weakness. His tirades fill the rooms with venom. Yet behind the rage, I catch moments where his eyes drift off, distant, hollow, moments where he seems to see, finally, that the Reich is finished. But then the anger floods back, the illusion rises again, and everyone nods along because to contradict him now is to risk death. Eva Braun glides through it all like a ghost of another world. She dresses in silk gowns, wears pearls, and insists on touches of elegance, as if she can force the bunker to bend to her fantasy. She hosts tea gatherings, plays records, smiles with a kind of determined denial. And always, she stays close to Adolf. She has bound her life to his fate, and her serenity is more terrifying than his rage. At night, when the lights flicker low, the bunker becomes unbearable. The thuds of Soviet artillery roll closer, sometimes shaking the walls like an earthquake. Men lie awake, drenched in sweat, whispering to themselves. Women stare at the ceiling, their eyes red from crying. Some officers press cyanide capsules between their fingers as if testing them, feeling the tiny weight of their future. Then comes the order. Hitler commands the executions of those he believes betrayed him. General Hermann Fegelein, Himmler's liaison, is dragged into the bunker, accused of desertion and cowardice. I see him, drunk, disheveled, dragged through the corridors by SS guards. His pleas echo off the concrete, but mercy has no place here. He is shot in the garden above, his blood sinking into the same earth the Soviets are tearing apart with shells. The sound of his execution is muffled by the thunder of artillery, just one more death in a city drowning in them. The act reverberates through the bunker like a warning. No one is safe from suspicion, not even the innermost circle. Paranoia is king now, and death is its servant. Every glance, every whisper could be betrayal. The walls feel tighter, the air thinner. I can almost hear the bunker itself breathing, closing in, pressing us toward the inevitable. Hitler grows more erratic, yet oddly more decisive. He begins to speak openly of his own death. He will not be captured, he insists. He will not be paraded in Moscow like a trophy. He will remain here, in Berlin, until the end. His words are met with solemn nods, but I see the flicker of relief in the eyes around him. At least the script is clear now. At least they know the ending, even if it terrifies them. The finality settles over the bunker like a shroud. Some embrace it. Goebbels speaks of martyrdom, of dying with the Reich. Magda cradles her children more tightly, her expression unreadable. Others still whisper of escape routes, of disguises, of chances that grow smaller by the hour. But all of them, no matter their private dreams, are bound by the same walls, the same ceiling. the same doom pressing in from above. And then, late one night, as the guns roar above and the bunker groans under their weight, Hitler makes a chilling announcement. He will marry Eva Braun, not as a romantic gesture, not even as a final act of love, but as a ritual to seal their fate together. A wedding in the bunker, amid rubble and despair, amid dust and death. The preparations begin in whispers and candlelight. The secretaries bring out a registry book. Uniforms are brushed as best as possible. Eva smiles with trembling grace. The ceremony is to take place in the heart of the bunker, where the walls drip with moisture and the air tastes of gunpowder. And I realize, as I watch the room take shape for a wedding, while the Soviets carve their way toward us, that this is no celebration. It is a funeral rite disguised as matrimony, a union not of life, but of death. The vows will be spoken, the papers signed, and with that ritual completed, only one act remains. The act that will end it all. Would you like me to carry the story directly into Section 4? The wedding night and the chilling calm before Hitler's final decision? Or expand this section further with more sensory detail of the bunker's collapse? The wedding begins in whispers, under the suffocating hum of ventilation fans and the tremors of Soviet artillery above. Midnight hangs heavy in the bunker, though there is no sky here, no stars, no time. Only the stale air, the dim electric bulbs flickering like nervous candles, and the faint scent of champagne mingled with gun oil and sweat. I stand in the cramped chamber as Eva Braun enters, a pale figure in a simple dress, her face aglow with fragile serenity. She smiles as though this is the evening she has always dreamed of, though her bouquet is not flowers, but the certainty of death. Beside her, Adolf Hitler shuffles forward, his body frail, his movements jerky, his hand trembling at his side. Yet for a moment, his eyes burn with something unfamiliar. Calm. An official recites the vows, his voice unsteady, bouncing off the damp concrete walls. It is absurd, surreal, the vows of eternal union spoken in a bunker where eternity is measured in hours. Still, they speak them, he and she, their voices low but steady. Papers are signed. Witnesses, Goebbels, Bormann, the secretaries, scribble their names in solemn silence. There is no applause, no laughter, only the grinding sound of war outside. Afterwards, champagne is poured. The glasses clink softly, the ritual completed. Eva laughs lightly, her voice carrying into the corners, her laughter too bright, too brittle. She insists on music from the gramophone, a dance in the shadows. For a few minutes, the bunker becomes a twisted parody of celebration. Goebbels forces a smile. Magda's eyes glisten. The secretaries exchange glances that hover between pity and horror. The newlyweds toast, sip, and smile. Two lovers on the edge of an abyss, daring the abyss to swallow them. But beneath it all, I feel the heaviness pressing in. This is not a wedding. It is a dirge. Their union is not for life, but for death. Eva knows it. Hitler knows it. Everyone in the bunker knows it. The ceremony is less about love than about sealing a pact with fate. When the music fades, the bunker grows darker still. Hitler retreats to his study, where the maps lie in tatters, their lines meaningless now. He summons his secretaries. With shaking voice and firm words, he dictates his last will and political testament. I listen as he pours venom into the silence, betrayal by the generals, the weakness of the people, the eternal enemy he blames for his downfall. His words are filled with rage, yet stripped of power. They are not commands anymore. They are confessions. They are the echoes of a man who once commanded armies, now reduced to dictating curses into the void. The secretaries type feverishly, their faces pale in the dim light. The clatter of keys sounds like a funeral drumbeat. Beside them, Goebbels listens intently, nodding with fervor. Bormann's face is harder to read, half devotion, half calculation, as though he is already weighing how to slip from this tomb. When the testament is done, Hitler slumps back, exhausted, his eyes dark hollows. He dismisses the others, keeping only Eva. Through the crack of the door, I see her lean close, whispering softly, resting her head against his shoulder. It is an image of intimacy, yet there is no tenderness, only resignation. They are bound together, and their path leads nowhere but down. Hours blur into one another. In the mess hall, the mood is hushed, almost reverent. Food is barely touched. Cigarettes burn to ash between forgotten fingers. Magda Goebbels strokes the hair of her children, the little ones tucked into blankets on narrow cots, their eyes wide and trusting. She smiles at them, but her smile is broken, trembling at the edges. The secretaries weep quietly, wiping tears they cannot justify. Even the guards have grown silent, their boots no longer striking the floor with discipline, but dragging with exhaustion. Above us, Berlin screams. The Soviets storm street after street, their artillery pounding the earth with relentless fury. Each explosion seems to grow louder, closer. Some swear they can smell the smoke filtering down through the vents. The city is no longer dying. It is dead, and only the bunker remains as its heart still beating. But down here, even that heart is faltering. Rumors circulate. Himmler's betrayal is confirmed. Göring has fled. Commanders have deserted. The Reich is hollow, its leaders either vanished or awaiting execution. Hitler's circle shrinks tighter, bound not by hope, but by despair. And then, one evening after the marriage, Hitler gathers them once more. His voice is hoarse, but the words are steady. He announces that he will take his life rather than surrender. He speaks of poison and pistols, of the certainty of death. He insists his body must not be captured, that it must be burned. His tone is calm, almost cold, as though discussing the weather. But the room freezes. They all know what this means. The ritual is nearly complete. The end is not days away. It is tomorrow. Eva sits beside him, smiling faintly, her hand resting on his. She agrees without hesitation. She has waited for this moment, chosen it, embraced it. I see in her expression the terrifying peace of someone who believes she is stepping into destiny. The others murmur their loyalty, their voices tight. Goebbels pledges he and Magda will remain as well. Others say little, their silence louder than any vow. Some look at the floor. Some glance toward the exit. Everyone feels the same truth closing in. When the Führer falls, so must they. Or at least, so will the bunker demand of them. The night drags on. Cigarettes burn. Boots shuffle. Somewhere down the corridor, a secretary sobs uncontrollably before being hushed by another. The air grows hotter, thicker, heavier, as though the very oxygen is draining out of the bunker. I can feel time itself bending inward, narrowing toward a single inevitable point. And when Hitler finally dismisses them, retreating with Eva into his private chamber, the silence that follows is unbearable. It is the silence of anticipation, of people staring at walls, waiting for a sound they know will come but dread to hear. I close my eyes, listening. The walls tremble, the earth shakes, and in that darkness, I feel the inevitability pressing down harder than ever. Tomorrow, the bunker will echo with a final sound, one single shot that will silence a voice which once roared across continents, and we are all waiting for it. The morning arrives without sunlight, only the dim hum of the generators and the steady throb of artillery above. Time has no meaning in the bunker, yet everyone feels it, the sense that this day will not pass like the others. Whispers dart through the corridors. Heute ist der Tag. Today is the day. The very air tastes of finality. I move through the rooms and see faces hollowed by sleeplessness. Goebbels walks like a specter, his eyes bloodshot, his words clipped. Magda hovers over her children, brushing their hair, straightening their clothes, as if preparing them for a school day that will never come. Bormann scribbles messages furiously, dispatching orders that no one will read, trying to keep the machinery of power alive a few more hours. The SS guards stand restless, their hands twitching near their pistols, their gazes fixed on the concrete floor. In Hitler's study, the atmosphere is suffocating. He appears gaunt, aged beyond recognition, his uniform hanging loosely from his frame. His hair is unkempt, his hands tremble uncontrollably. Yet his eyes, hollow as they are, carry a strange clarity. On the table lies a small pistol, its metallic gleam faint under the weak lights. Beside it, the cyanide capsules. Death, neatly prepared, waiting like a guest about to be invited in. Eva Braun sits nearby, calm, almost cheerful. She has dressed elegantly, as though for an evening out, her lipstick carefully applied, her smile steady. She speaks softly, her words tender, almost playful, as if this were not the final hour. She sips champagne and smokes a cigarette, her movements graceful, deliberate. Watching her, I feel unease. Not horror, not pity, but something more unsettling. The serenity of someone who welcomes the end as liberation. The others file in to pay their respects, one by one. They know this is farewell. The mood is ceremonial, hushed, ritualistic. Each man offers loyalty, final words of devotion. Some bend to kiss Hitler's hand, others stand stiff and salute. I see tears in the eyes of secretaries, trembling hands clutching pens and papers. They are witnessing the collapse of a figure who once towered over the world, now preparing to vanish by his own hand. Hitler speaks softly, thanking them for their service, cursing his enemies one final time. His voice is fragile, broken by fatigue, yet firm in its resolve. He insists his body must not fall into enemy hands. He repeats it again and again. His corpse must be burned, reduced to ash, so that no one may display him like a trophy. It is his last command, and it carries the weight of obsession. I feel the tension coiling tighter with each word. Outside, the Soviets hammer closer, the ground shaking under their relentless assault. In here, all sound has narrowed to whispers, clinking glasses, the occasional sob. Death is no longer abstract. It is waiting at the door, its shadow stretching across every face. Then the inner circle retreats, leaving only Adolf and Eva. The heavy door closes. The corridor falls silent. No one speaks. No one moves. Time stretches unbearably. Seconds feel like hours. Every creak, every shuffle of boots makes hearts race. The bunker holds its breath. And then it happens. A sharp crack, like a whip, reverberates through the walls. A pistol shot. Then silence. For a moment, no one dares to breathe. Then comes a second sound, softer, muted, the breaking of a glass vial, the hiss of poison swallowed. 2 lives extinguished in a handful of heartbeats. When the door opens, the smell hits first. Gunpowder, bitter almonds, the acrid tang of cyanide. Inside, I glimpse the scene. Hitler slumped on the sofa, blood darkening his temple, the pistol still in his hand. Beside him, Eva stretched out, her lips faintly blue, her features eerily calm, as though she has drifted into a tranquil sleep. Death has sealed their pact, and the room feels colder for it. The staff rush forward. Blankets are thrown, bodies wrapped hastily. SS guards lift the corpses with trembling hands, their faces pale and rigid. The orders are clear: to the garden above, to the Reich Chancellery courtyard. The air grows frantic, boots pounding the corridor, men carrying the weight of history in their arms. I follow them through the passageways, up the narrow staircase to the outside world. The door creaks open, and at once the roar of battle floods in. Artillery, machine guns, shouts in Russian echoing through the ruins. Smoke and dust choke the air, the sky above Berlin a shifting canvas of fire and ash. The courtyard is cratered, walls shattered, trees shredded by shells. It is no garden. It is a graveyard of stone. There, beneath the apocalyptic sky, they lay the bodies down. Petrol is fetched, splashed liberally over the corpses, soaking uniforms and dresses. The stench of fuel cuts through the smell of smoke and gunpowder. A match is struck, trembling in the hand of a soldier. It touches the ground, and flames leap upward with a roar. The fire consumes them quickly. Flesh, fabric, hair, all vanish into smoke and ash. The figures who once ruled millions are reduced to nothing more than blackened shapes writhing in the blaze. The crackle of burning mingles with the distant thunder of artillery. Above, Soviet shells scream, as if the heavens themselves bear witness to the end. Around the fire, the circle stands frozen. No words are spoken, only silence, broken by the roar of the flames and the occasional sob. Some stare in awe, others in disbelief, others in a numb emptiness. They watch the man who dragged the world into catastrophe vanish into smoke, and they do not know whether to mourn or to breathe. The flames rise higher, casting shadows on the bunker walls, illuminating faces twisted by exhaustion and despair. For a moment, it feels like an ancient ritual, a sacrifice to history itself. And when the fire dies down, leaving only charred remains, the silence is unbearable. The bodies are gone, the dictator is ash, yet the war above rages on, louder, closer. The Soviets have not stopped. The bunker has not been spared. The fire in the courtyard has ended one chapter, but the final reckoning for those still alive has only begun. And as the men return below, sealing the heavy doors behind them, I feel it, the weight of the next choice pressing in on them all. Hitler has chosen his end. Now each of them must decide their own, and some choices will be darker than his. The smell of smoke and petrol still clings to me as we descend once more into the bunker. The heavy steel doors close behind us, sealing away the courtyard where the flames still flicker, eating the last fragments of two bodies that had once ruled empires. The sound of the battle outside floods in for a final time before the door thuds shut, muffling the chaos back into distant thunder. Down here, the silence is unbearable. It is not the silence of calm. It is the silence of waiting. The Führer is gone. His shadow, once a weight that pressed down on every word, every movement, has evaporated. For a moment, the rooms feel lighter, as though the air itself has shifted. But almost instantly, that lightness curdles into dread. With Hitler's death, the final authority has vanished, and in its absence comes only fear, panic, and despair. Joseph Goebbels is the first to break the silence. His voice quivers, yet carries a strange conviction. He announces that he and Magda will not leave the bunker, will not live in a world without their Führer. His words fall heavy in the stale air. Some nod, others avert their eyes, but Magda, sitting quietly beside her children, does not protest. Her face is carved from grief, her eyes distant, as though she has already stepped into a shadow none of us can see. The children play softly on the floor, unaware of the fate their parents have already chosen for them. Their laughter echoes faintly in the narrow corridor, piercing the suffocating gloom. Each giggle is a knife, reminding us of innocence untouched by ideology, innocence about to be destroyed. The sound makes me shiver because I know it is not the Soviets they need fear. It is their own mother. Bormann paces like a caged animal. He scratches notes, drafts messages, then tears them apart. His eyes dart constantly toward the exits, the maps, the men around him. He speaks of escape, of breaking through the Soviet lines, of reaching Donetsk in the north. His voice grows sharp, fevered, desperate. He cannot accept this place as his tomb. Yet even as he speaks, I hear the futility in his tone. The Soviets are too close, the ring too tight. Still, fantasy is the only currency left, and he spends it like a gambler on his last coin. The secretaries huddle in corners, their eyes swollen from crying. They whisper about poison capsules hidden in their pockets, about quick deaths versus slow ones. Some vow to live, to surrender if they must, but their words falter as they imagine what the Soviets might do when they discover the women who served Hitler in his final hours. Their hands tremble as they type the last dictated orders, orders no soldier will ever see. And through it all, the bombardment grows louder. The Soviets are inside the city's heart now, their tanks rolling down streets once adorned with Nazi banners. Their infantry dig house to house, torch to torch, pressing closer to this buried tomb. Each explosion rattles the concrete harder, dust falling in thicker clouds. It feels as if the bunker itself will collapse before the enemy even arrives. Night falls, though we do not see it. Only the clocks remind us of time. In the mess hall, Magda Goebbels gathers her children. She strokes their hair, whispers softly, sings them lullabies. Her voice trembles, yet carries the tenderness of a mother trying to shield her little ones from fear. But the words are not meant to soothe them into a new day. They are meant to guide them into eternity. Later, when the children lie sleeping, the doctor is summoned. He carries the poison, hidden in glass vials. I do not see the act directly, few do, but I hear it. The muffled cries, the soft footsteps, the silence that follows. When Magda returns, her face is pale, her hands trembling. She sits down heavily, her eyes vacant, her lips whispering prayers to gods that do not answer. The bunker has grown darker still, for innocence itself has been extinguished within its walls. Goebbels remains composed, his devotion to Hitler now transformed into a death wish. He paces with intensity, his voice low, muttering about loyalty, sacrifice, destiny. His wife beside him, their children gone. He is a man stripped of all earthly ties, living only for an ideal already burned in the courtyard above. He declares they will end their lives together, following the Führer into the abyss. And when the moment comes, a pistol crack echoes once more through the halls. Their bodies slump together, another pair swallowed by silence. I walk the corridor, each step heavier than the last. The walls seem narrower, the air hotter, as though the bunker itself is suffocating us. The secretaries weep openly now. Guards whisper of breaking out, of disguising themselves as civilians, of surrendering to the Soviets. Some clutch their pistols with white knuckles, torn between fighting and turning the barrel inward. Every man and woman here is balanced on the edge of a knife, their choices dwindling to two. Die here or die out there. Bormann grows more frantic. He shouts at officers, demanding couriers, demanding paths out. He swears he will not rot in this concrete coffin. He gathers a group, speaking of a breakout attempt under cover of night. The others listen, torn between desperation and terror. To leave is almost certain death. To stay is death of another kind. I see them prepare. Maps spread on the table, pistols loaded, cyanide capsules pressed into hands as insurance. The plan is madness, yet madness is the only plan left. As they ready themselves, the bunker grows quieter still, as if holding its breath for their fate. The Führer is ash. Goebbels and his family are gone. The circle has shrunk to fragments, and those fragments scatter now, each man choosing his end, each woman whispering prayers into the darkness. And as the breakout group climbs the stairs toward the burning city above, I feel the air shift once more. The bunker is nearly empty, its echoes haunting, its shadows long. Death has walked these corridors again and again, and it has not finished. Because now the bunker itself is dying, its heartbeat slowing, its walls trembling, its silence growing heavier, and soon only ghosts will remain here. The stairwell groans with each footstep as Bormann and his chosen men vanish into the night above. Their boots scrape the concrete, echoing one last time before the heavy steel door thuds shut. The silence that follows is suffocating, as if the bunker itself knows most of them will never return. I picture them already, scrambling through the inferno of Berlin, dodging Soviet patrols, disguises slipping in the chaos. Perhaps a bullet will find them, perhaps captivity. Perhaps they will vanish without trace, leaving the bunker to swallow their absence. Below, the atmosphere grows emptier, more spectral. The corridors, once bustling with staff officers and frantic messengers, are hollow now, filled only with the distant rumbles of artillery and the occasional sob of a secretary. The air smells of damp stone, smoke carried down through the vents, and the sour tang of unwashed uniforms. Every sound is magnified, the clatter of a typewriter, the scrape of a chair, the whisper of a prayer. With each hour, the bunker feels less like a command center and more like a mausoleum. Some cling to routine. The secretaries still type, though their pages are filled with orders no army will obey, proclamations no one will read. The SS guards still pace, their boots tracing endless circles, though their eyes are haunted, their discipline fractured. Others have already chosen resignation. I see one officer drinking alone, staring at a pistol on the table, his face slack with despair. I pass another room where two men sit in silence, a cyanide capsule between them, neither brave enough to take it first. The collapse of discipline seeps through every crack. There are whispers of escape through the sewers, through the rubble, through disguises as ordinary civilians. Some dream of reaching the Western Allies, of trading information for survival. Others laugh bitterly, muttering that the Soviets will find them no matter where they run. Each whisper is laced with fear, every plan dissolving under the weight of reality. I wander past Magda Goebbels' children's cots, still tucked neatly with blankets, now empty forever. The sight turns my stomach. The silence of those beds is louder than the shell fire above, an echo of innocence erased. The walls here seem stained, not with blood, but with something more unbearable: guilt. In the communications room, the teletype clatters. Reports still arrive, grim messages of Soviet advances, of German units surrendering en masse, of street battles ending in slaughter. The machine spits out words like epitaphs. One operator stares at them blankly, then rips the paper from the machine and crumples it in his fist, as though the truth can be destroyed by refusing to read it. The secretaries, Frau Junge, Frau Christian, speak softly among themselves. They wonder what awaits them if they survive. They imagine Russian soldiers bursting through the bunker doors, dragging them into the light, branding them as accomplices to a regime that has just burned itself into ash. Their voices tremble with the knowledge that their fate, too, is being decided outside, in streets they can no longer see. Food is nearly gone. Meals are reduced to scraps, coffee to bitter dregs, cigarettes traded like treasure. The men smoke constantly, filling the halls with a haze that clings to the damp walls. The air grows hotter, thicker, as though the very oxygen is running out. At times I feel dizzy, my head heavy, my lungs straining. The bunker is suffocating us slowly, as if it wants to keep the dead it has already claimed. Above, Berlin screams. I imagine the Soviets storming through Tiergarten, their tanks grinding over the ruins, their soldiers shouting in a dozen tongues. The city that once staged parades of power is now nothing but rubble, corpses, and fire. Each shell that lands shakes the walls like a drumbeat of inevitability. The Reichstag is already gone. The Chancellery is collapsing. And here, in the earth beneath, the last fragments of the Reich cling to shadows. I overhear one officer mutter, almost to himself, "Perhaps it would be better if they buried us alive." His voice is cracked, but there is no irony in it, just exhaustion. Bormann's breakout attempt echoes in whispers. Some claim he escaped. Others swear he was gunned down in the streets. No one knows for certain, and the uncertainty gnaws at everyone left behind. If he could not make it, what chance do they have? If he did, perhaps there is still hope, but the Soviets are too close, their grip too tight. Hope feels like another lie, like the phantom armies Hitler drew on his maps. As the night deepens, I feel the bunker hollow out around me. Rooms once filled with voices now echo only with memories. Death has walked these halls again and again. Hitler, Eva, Goebbels, Magda, the children. And yet, it is not finished. The walls seem to whisper their names, carrying their ghosts into every shadow. The few who remain drift like shades. Some prepare for suicide with cyanide or pistols. Others sit in silence, waiting for the Soviets to smash down the doors. Each has chosen, or failed to, choose how their story will end. And as I look around, I realize I am standing in a place no longer alive, a tomb already, though its occupants still breathe. Then, faintly, through the earth, a new sound rises. Not artillery, not explosions, but voices. Russian voices shouting commands, echoing closer, louder, boots pounding on rubble above. The ground itself seems to vibrate with their advance. The Red Army is at the gates of the bunker, and with that realization, I know, the ghosts of the dead will soon be joined by the living. The voices above grow louder, sharper, echoing down through the shattered ground. Russian commands, shouted in staccato bursts, mingle with the rattle of machine gun fire and the deep, bone-shaking thunder of artillery. Dust drifts from the ceiling in slow, mournful streams. Each flake feels like sand falling in the final hourglass. The bunker breathes uneasily, like a beast cornered, trembling before the kill. I walk the corridor and feel the emptiness pressing in. Rooms that only days before swarmed with officers and secretaries now sit hollow, chairs overturned, papers scattered like autumn leaves. Typewriters are abandoned mid-sentence, their keys still smeared with ink. In one chamber, a uniform lies folded neatly on a cot, its owner vanished into silence. In another, a pistol rests on a desk beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. Its owner vanished in another way entirely. Those who remain are fewer than ever. A handful of guards, gaunt and unshaven, their eyes bloodshot, clutch their rifles with hands that tremble not from readiness, but from exhaustion. A secretary huddles in the corner, her face hidden in her hands, rocking slowly. Another stares blankly at the floor, lips moving silently, a prayer for salvation or forgiveness. The atmosphere is thick with dread, some whisper of surrender, clinging to the faint hope that mercy might exist. Others scoff bitterly, swearing the Soviets will show none. Cyanide vials pass discreetly from hand to hand. Each capsule glints like a tiny promise, quick, certain, unyielding. The sound of pistol shots still rings occasionally in the distance, muffled by walls, followed by silence that spreads like ripples on dark water. Death has become casual here, spoken of with the calmness of a train schedule, carried out with the efficiency of an order. Above us, the earth roars. The Red Army is no longer distant. Their shells crash into the chancellery. Their shouts echo in the courtyards. Their boots pound ever closer. The bunker shudders, lights flickering, walls sweating with moisture and fear. The Soviets are tearing into the last refuge of the Reich, and there is no shield left, no miracle, no salvation. I wander to the narrow staircase that leads upward, the very path where Hitler's corpse was carried only days before, doused in petrol, consumed by fire. Now it vibrates with the impact of shells, dust cascading like snow, the muffled chorus of Russian voices bleeding through. I imagine them breaking through any moment, storming down with bayonets and rifles, flooding this underworld with the living to meet the dead. And yet, some cling still to ritual. Orders are typed, messages are dispatched into silence. The final proclamations of a Reich that has already burned are written, sealed, and filed away, as if the act of writing can preserve a kingdom of ash. Each keystroke is futile, each page an epitaph. The secretaries gather, their whispers fractured, their tears unending. They know their choices are nearly gone. Surrender, suicide, or capture. None is salvation, each a different kind of death. Their mascara smudges into dark rivers on pale cheeks, their hands clutching rosaries, lockets, letters that will never be delivered. Then, as the hours crawl forward, a deep silence falls. The guns outside seem to recede for a heartbeat. The bunker is still, too still. The survivors hold their breath, ears straining, waiting. And then it comes, a thunderous explosion directly above. The walls quake, plaster cracks, the bulbs flicker violently, then dim. The Soviets are here. Boots stamp overhead, doors crash open, voices bark orders. The enemy has breached the upper levels of the chancellery. Any moment, they will discover the stairwell leading down. Panic grips the survivors. Some fumble with pistols, their hands shaking. Others clutch cyanide, holding the capsules between trembling fingers. A few drop to their knees, crossing themselves feverishly. And then, like a sudden storm, the doors rattle. Shouts echo in Russian. The guards raise their weapons, but their faces are pale, their movements clumsy. No fight is left in them. The end has arrived, and it will not be glorious. I close my eyes and feel the weight of it all pressing in. The dreams of empire, the parades, the speeches, the wars, all of it has collapsed into this suffocating tomb, into these trembling walls, into the whispers of the last survivors waiting for the inevitable. The footsteps descend. The bunker breathes its last, and as the Soviets surge closer, torches and rifles ready, I realize this place is no longer the center of power, no longer the heart of an empire. It is a grave, and we are its final offerings. The lights flicker one last time. The air is heavy with smoke and silence. And then the doors burst open. History itself steps inside,